This is James Randi, and you're listening to The Skeptic Zone.
Welcome to The Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason. Here are your hosts, Richard Saunders and Stefan Sojka.
Hello, Richard.
Stefan.
It's good to be back again.
Here we are back in the old Skeptic Zone for the 13th, Friday the 13th.
Oh, that's pretty superstitious.
It is superstitious.
Oh, is it going to go well?
Well, this is the Friday the 13th, but show 17. So if you add 13 and 17 and our birth dates...
You do the numerology on that, it's all good.
We'll get a listener to do the numerology later.
So it's going to be a great show.
It's a superstitious show.
Oh, I'm getting worried already.
I was worried all week. We have Mark Henn. Now, he's going to be talking to Kylie Sturgis about superstitions.
Excellent.
Grain of Salt with Eran this week looks at superstition with regard to religion.
Religious superstition. There's none of that, is there?
Well, we'll find out.
We'll find out.
Keep
listening.
Good. Keep listening. Of course, the roundup with Michael looking at some cults, including Scientology.
Is that a cult?
No, of course not. No, they're completely legitimate,
I'm surprised.
honest.
Okay. And then what? The think tank.
The good old think tank. With Dave the Happy Singer, our recurring special guest.
Oh, yes.
Dr. Rachie, of course, with another look at medical quackery.
Oh, she's good, isn't she? Good thing about Dr. Rachie, she really knows her stuff. She actually says microbiologist. Is that right?
Cellular biologist.
Cellular biologist.
Yeah.
Almost the same thing. Cellular biologist. So
I think she's the only one on the show who knows what she's talking
about. That's right. No, but she's able to really get to the bottom of it and get the facts out, which is really good, because a lot of the stuff that all the quackery is on about is just no facts.
That's right.
It's just all like anecdotes and things.
As we say, they just make stuff up.
Yeah. Not Dr. Rachie.
Not Dr. Rachie.
She gets to the bottom of it. All right, well, it's going to be a great show.
Let's do it.
Let's get on with it.
Dr. Mark Henn is from the University of New Hampshire's Psychology Department. On a recent visit to New York, our reporter Kylie Sturgis caught up with Dr. Henn and asked him about sporting superstitions.
So what is a superstition, and why are there so many studies done regarding sport and superstition?
Because it's so rich. I mean, What is a superstition? We have several broad, different definitions. Skinner's paper on B.F. Skinner's paper on superstition in the pigeon looked at superstition as behavior that is controlled by its consequences, but the behavior itself is not responsible for those consequences. So, non-contingent reinforcement. You do something, some fortuitous result happens, and you put those two together. You happen to do a little whatever it is before a big game, you win the game, you're going to continue doing that. And in sports, for a number of reasons we can get into, it's perfect for superstition. First off, you have a lot of chances for success or failure. And oddly enough, the better you get in a sport, the more chance you have to associate some success with some arbitrary thing. And so the higher up you get in sports, the more superstitious athletes tend to be, because they've had more opportunity for success. The other thing is that sport is, chancy. If there's something that you are really, really good at and you can guarantee every single time you can get it right, there's no reason to have a superstition with that. But in, say, baseball, the best hitters are successful 1/3 of the time. .333 batting average is fantastic. And so they could do everything perfect, and that's not necessarily enough, because it's not all up to them. They can hit the ball, somebody happens to catch it. Have a fantastic day. The rest of the team doesn't, they still lose. So it's not all up to them. And when you have those risky situations, like gambling, lots of superstitions with gambling. When it's something you don't have control over, you're looking for any kind of control you can get. And superstitious behavior may very well be an attempt to get more control than you actually have in a situation.
superstition also carries over to the fans in the stadium as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The fans, I wore this shirt to this game and they won, so I'm going to keep wearing this shirt to the games here. I'm not going to wash my socks until the streak is over. There are fans who always have to come into the arena through the same door because they did it that time and the team won. The fans, the movie, what was the one with... Fever Pitch. You can see I think that's what it's called.
There's a British one called Fever Pitch, and there's an American one which is based upon the same sort of show. Yeah.
Bottom line is, the fans are insane about that. Myself included. My son and I will watch Cleveland Browns games, and we have the Cleveland Browns banner and the shirts and this and the football. And of course,
is that superstition, or is that just allegiance to your team?
A bit of both. I mean, the thing is that I know full well that the things that I do don't matter. And yet, learning is not something that is necessarily up here. Learning is your body, your whole self. And there is an association. It's just not a causal association. There is an association. We detect these probabilities, if you will. And I found out, if we were to actually measure the success and failure of, say, the Cleveland Browns, when I watch them, they are, in fact, more likely to lose.
Wow.
Now, in recent years, that's because they've had a losing record.
Oh.
It's completely independent of my watching them.
Yeah.
But when I've watched them, they have lost. And that's completely objective.
Yes.
When I watch them, they lose. And so, of course, as an organism, you have to learn from these associations. It's a real, true association in the real world. You're responding to that. You're learning that. And so, at a gut level, I want to watch the game, but if I watch it, they'll lose.
Oh, no.
And so, at a cerebral level, of course, no, it doesn't make any difference. How could it possibly make a difference that I'm watching the game and therefore they're going to lose? But it's true, and they will.
One of the things I noticed when I was interviewing the Australian Institute of Sports people, many of the younger people were very aware of the older generation of athletes having particular superstitions, and their statements were, well, we noticed that they had these superstitions, but they seem to rely on it less than we do. Does age have much of an influence on superstition, do you think?
I don't know. Learning history should. Whether it does or not, I don't know. But the older athletes would have had more opportunities to have success or failure associated with particular things. They're also going to simply be more known. Yeah. So very easy for you to look and see, in the United States, Wade Boggs, well known for eating chicken before each game. Jason Kidd had a very particular routine that he went through before foul shots. Remember to get back to that. Yeah. Sparky Anderson in baseball always walk over, never step on the chalk line and the baseline. And people who are very well known, very good, very successful, well, of course people know them. Yeah. And so it may seem that there are more superstitions simply because they're that much more available.
Yeah, and more popular, and therefore...
Yeah, absolutely. And everything is known about these athletes. You have newspaper writers and the sportscasters delving into every detail. And there's a lot of the superstitions that are not known. If you ask people themselves, they might not report on something, but if you ask them to report on their friends or ask them to report on somebody else, one of my students' mothers is a flight attendant, and as the New England Patriots fly one place or another place, she says, this particular athlete, I won't say who it is because he's still playing, will always have to sit in this same place and always have to do this and always have to do this. And to her, it was very clear that this is superstitious behavior. If you ask him, no. And in fact, that's one of the more intriguing things to me, is that there is this, I don't know whether there's a fine line or whether there's no line at all. Some of the superstitious behaviors, or behaviors that were at least initially superstitious, can start to act as a warm-up routine as a means of focusing, as behaviors would call a discriminative stimulus for appropriate behavior in that circumstance. So again, a warm-up routine for a foul shot might be exactly what you need to get into the pattern that is associated with success. To take an extreme example, athletes competing in the biathlon, where they're cross-country skiing and then shooting. They have to go from an extreme state of physiological arousal, this very much fight-or-flight, sympathetic response, very run, to as low a pulse as they possibly can to be able to aim and successfully shoot. They're penalized tremendously if they miss a shot. They have to ski some more. It used to be they would pull into the place where they're going to shoot and do horribly. Well, now they're teaching themselves through classical conditioning to give a particular mantra or a particular thing, holding the gun in their hand, for instance, associate that with, say, meditation. Mm-hmm. So if you, for weeks, months, years even, meditate with your rifle in your hand, that becomes, a conditioned stimulus for the conditioned response of relaxation. And so you can see their pulse rate. You get the gun out and it just drops precipitously. And so something like that with a pre-foul shot routine, a superstitious routine before you step up to the batter's box, anything, a routine before a penalty kick in soccer, or anything, can be a routine that is getting them into the correct physical and mental, if you will, place for doing that routine. The trick on this is, when is it superstition and therefore, and by definition, not connected? And when is it routine? And some, for instance, Karen Pryor works with athletes, and for her, she'll try to develop routines. It's a routine that you can always be in control of. Mm. What happens if this football player can't get that seat? Yeah. What happens if Wade Boggs can't get chicken? What happens? There was Stuart Weiss has a book on superstitions, a wonderful book, and I can't recall off the top of my head which athlete it is, but had a lucky dime in his locker. Well, a teammate, just for fun, moved it, stole it. There was a fight in the locker room. The game was delayed. Now, if there was simply a warm-up routine, he's completely in control of that. You can't take that away from him. But if somebody knows that you are vulnerable to this superstition and can mess around with it...
Yeah, who's really in control.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's where it can be something that could really come back and hurt the athlete.
Yeah.
Astronomycast takes a facts-based journey through the cosmos as it offers listeners weekly discussions on astronomical topics ranging from planets to cosmology. Hosted by Fraser Cain of Universe Today and myself, Dr. Pamela Gay of Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, this show brings the questions of an avid astronomy lover directly to an astronomer. Together, Fraser and I explore what is known and being discovered about the universe around us. Join us each week as we take a facts-based journey through the cosmos at astronomycast.com.
Grain of salt, grain of salt, grain of salt.
Let's all take this with a grain of salt. Here's Eran Segev.
Grain of salt now. Grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
The Wailing Wall is a remnant of the wall that surrounded the site of the Second Temple in Jerusalem. That temple was destroyed in the year 70 AD, but the western part of the wall remained relatively intact. Over the ensuing centuries, additional construction roughly doubled the height of the wall, but the bottom half is still the original built by Herod around the then intact temple. For religious Jews, the wall is a symbol of the connection between the Jewish people in Jerusalem and a direct link to the destroyed temple, and this has led to it having religious meaning despite its mundane start. A number of traditions have developed around the wall, with the most famous one being sticking of notes asking for this or that in the crevices between the huge stone bricks in the hope that God is closer there than anywhere else and might read the note. I too, as a child, inserted such a note and put my head against the wall. Not being a beauty pageant contestant, I simply asked for peace, as I wasn't aware that there were wars elsewhere and that what was really needed was world peace. The Jewish obsession with the wall may be understandable, but when Barack Obama visited Israel during his campaign for the presidency of the USA, he also went to the wall. He duly put on a skullcap, wrote a note, and pushed it into a crack in one of the bricks. Now, I know Mr. Obama professes to be a religious man, but there are two problems here. One is that the wall is only a religious artifact because the temple it was built to protect was destroyed, so any religious attributions or rituals around it are not really part of Judaism, except in a cultural sense. You might say it is pseudo-religious. And the second is that Barack Obama, according to all available references, is not Jewish, so in going to the wall and sticking a note in it, he was pandering to his host's religious superstition rather than presenting his own. I picked the Wailing Wall story because I grew up in Israel, so I'm familiar with this particular superstition and how visitors to Israel adopt it. But there are examples of such behavior in all religions, of course. More common than adopting religious behaviors is tolerance of religious superstition simply because it is religious. Some cases are not particularly harmful. For example, world leaders sent Australians affected by the recent bushfires in Victoria their wishes and prayers. I suspect most people, including atheists like me, would accept that the intention here is to convey respect and show concern. While I would prefer to hear them send their sympathies and perhaps some money, no harm was done. The interesting point is that it is easy for Australians, religious and secular alike, to accept this because an identifiably religious superstition is on hand. Imagine that a world leader had chosen to inform us that his personal witch had been instructed to cast spells that would stop the fires, or who sent advice to the Australians to paint their faces white to ward off the fire spirits. Such messages, despite being of a similar level of practical use, and probably much more sincerity, would have met widespread scorn. A yet more insidious form of pandering to religious superstition is the acceptance in many parts of the world of the right of parents to prevent medical treatment of their children in the name of religion. Christian Scientists and Jehovah's Witnesses are notorious in that respect, but they're not alone. It is estimated that about 50 children die in the United States every year because their parents prefer to pray for them rather than seek medical attention. I am sure our listeners would be pleased to know that the law in Australia does not allow this level of freedom to parents, as the right of the child predominates the right of parents. This is also true in many, if not most, European countries. Another form of pandering to religion is being particularly forgiving of the acts performed in the name of religion. Despite diplomatic protocol, political leaders are usually quick to criticize a foreign leader who has done something wrong in their eyes. Note, for example, the comments made by European leaders last week about the British government's decision to reduce the VAT. Many of those same leaders would certainly hesitate before criticizing the Pope for his stance on the use of condoms, and most likely would decide against doing so. Lest it be assumed that I am either a militant or naive atheist, and that I think religion can be driven out of existence, I would like to clarify that none of the above apply to me. It would surely be nice if all people were rational enough to realize that the probability of the existence of their favorite invisible friend is rather low, but I suspect religion is part of the human condition. Not only do I accept it, I do not have a particular problem with it as long as it is kept as a private affair. But religion often cannot be a private affair. As in the example I gave above, it affects some parents' decisions with regards to medical treatment for their children. In other cases, an organization such as the Catholic Church, which has a centrally dictated dogma, can affect the way Catholic politicians vote, though there was a wonderful event in the New South Wales Parliament last year when Catholic MPs who were threatened with excommunication over their intention to vote for a bill authorizing stem cell research told the Cardinal of Sydney what to do with his threats in no uncertain terms. Despite the optimism that this event may instill in those who would like to see religion out of the public sphere, it depends on individuals doing the right thing. Had the MPs in that case decided to change their vote due to the pressure of their religious group, I believe that very few people would have seen it as betrayal of the public interest. Most probably, it would have been seen as them exercising their moral judgment, and the fact that their moral judgment was dictated by an unelected person would have been forgotten. Such is the nature of society's relationship with religion. Perhaps the most incredible aspect of pandering to religious belief in the public sphere is that people tend to be lenient towards any and all religions, ignoring the fact that they generally contradict each other to such an extent that wars were and are fought over who is right, and it wouldn't be such a stretch to assume that they are all wrong. They most definitely can't be shown to be right. While it is quite all right for people to be wrong on any matter, allowing religions to occupy a privileged place in the public sphere under such circumstances cannot be justified on any reasonable grounds.
Grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
Our foreign correspondent for the Skeptic Zone, Dr. Karen Stolzno, who's been based in the Bay Area in California, has come back to us. She's come back to take over the editorship of the Skeptic magazine and to become the executive officer of Australian Skeptics. We are so pleased that she's back, and I caught up with her just the other day. Well, Karen, welcome back to Australia.
Thank you, Richard. I'm very pleased to be back.
What's it like being back? I mean, you lived in the Bay Area for what, 4 or 5 years, even longer?
For almost 5 years. So I guess you said to me actually when I left that the real culture shock would be on coming home. So that's what I'm undergoing at the moment, a bit of culture shock. Things are still different and things have changed, and so I'm re-assimilating again into society.
It sounds like something the Borgie used to do.
Yes, it's an anthropological term.
Oh, I see. No, it's very exciting to have you back. I'm really pleased, and of course, you're taking over the editorship of the Skeptic magazine.
Yes, it's been monopolised by Barry for the past 20 years, so he's given me some big shoes to fill.
He has, yeah.
But I've been working with him as associate editor for a couple of years now, so I have some understanding of the role.
Now, you're going to be so busy, I know this from first hand, because you and I today happen to be working on many skeptical things, especially the magazine. But I hope you'll still have time to be a reporter for the Skeptic Zone.
That's my priority, Richard.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm certainly glad to hear that. And what can people look forward to in the next issue of The Skeptic?
Oh, we have so many. We've got new columns. We've got just a lot of new elements to the magazine. It's going to be very sexy and slick, and I think everyone's really going to enjoy it. It's going to be a bit different to what people are familiar with.
Well, it's time for a change. I mean, a new editor, it's a new age, wash my mouth out with new age soap, for using that term.
A new age for skepticism.
It's a new age for skepticism, let's put it that way. Thank you. You said getting out of that situation. It is, it's very exciting to work on this magazine with you. I'm thrilled to bits doing it. There's lots of interesting new columns, news from abroad, news about Australia.
That's right, yeah, and I'm very happy to be working with you. I think we make a good team.
We do. And how can people subscribe to the new look, sleek Skeptic magazine?
Well, they can go to our website, which is www.skeptics.com.au, and you can subscribe there. There's a link to our magazine from the homepage.
Excellent. Karen, it's such a pleasure to have you back in the country. I look forward to working with you on the magazine and Skeptics in general, and of course, more Skeptic Zone reports.
I look forward to it.
Hi, I'm Alistair Tate, host of the new bi-weekly podcast, The Pseudoscientists, the official podcast of the Young Australian Skeptics. Join Elliot Birch, Darley Breedis, Jason Ball, Jack Scanlon, Tay Rush, and myself to hear what our generation have to say about quackery, science, and the issues that concern us. Subscribe to our podcast, located at youngozskeptics.com.
You're listening to The Skeptic Zone. I'm Brian Dunning from Skeptoid.com.
Now it's time for Dr. Rachie Reports with Dr. Rachael Dunlop.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Dr. Rachie Reports. This past week, Australia experienced its worst peacetime disaster in the country's history. As I speak to you, the official total for victims is 181. However, police fear the death toll could reach as high as 300 since they have yet to enter some areas. Many people are still classified as missing. As a country in mourning, we have been warned to brace for the death toll to rise steeply. Times such as this, it has been said, bring out the worst and the best in people. In amongst the incredible stories of courage and survival, there will always be the opportunists, such as the despicable looters who are apparently lurking, and others such as Pastor Danny Nalia. The leader of the Catch the Fire Ministries has attributed the tragedy to divine retribution for an abortion decriminalisation bill that passed in Victoria in 2008. Nalia calls Victoria, and I quote, the baby-killing state of Australia. I won't discuss this further except to say, disgraceful, reprehensible and completely inappropriate. And then there is this, quote, in the light of recent events in Bali and the bushfires in the eastern states of Australia, information about the use of homeopathy by the ordinary person is knowledge that should be shared. This gem of information appeared on a website selling homeopathic remedies, which then goes on to describe in great detail how homeopathy can be used to treat burns. But before I share with you some of the wisdom provided by this website, let me convey to you the sheer enormity of the situation facing hospitals and especially the burns unit at the Alfred Hospital in Melbourne. Dr. de Villiers-Smit is an emergency physician at the Alfred who worked on the Bali bombings and the current bushfires. Dr. de Smit told reporters these fires were by far one of the worst disasters I have ever been involved in. The Alfred Hospital recently opened a new specialist burns unit staffed by some of the best practitioners in Australia. The head of the Alfred Burns Unit, Heather Cleland, said, the classic burn patterns that we're seeing are mostly due to people who've been forced to run through flames or have been exposed to extremely high radiant heat temperatures. And so, most patients have very significant feet and hand burns as well as involving their arms and lower legs especially. All of the bushfire victims at the hospital have burns to more than 30% of their body. Many have burns to their feet and hands inflicted as they ran or crawled through fire to escape. Some also have burnt airways from smoke inhalation, and some may have to have limbs amputated. Heather Cleland also said, burns victims are highly sensitive to infection and must be treated with the highest level of care. But according to the homeopathy quacks, you don't need a top-class burns facility staffed by some of the best burns specialists in the world. You can just use homeopathy. Here's what one website recommends for very severe burns. Cantharis, or the Spanish fly. Used when there is violent acute inflammation and there may be severe delirium. When there is rapid progressive destruction of tissue and the pains are cutting, smarting, burning and biting. When there is also severe kidney involvement with burning and scalding on the passing of urine. There can be violent burning pain through the whole intestinal tract. There will be a tendency to gangrene with the destruction of the tissue. External application of Cantharis 1 times in half a litre of water may also be sprayed on the affected site for pain relief. Now, Cantharis is more commonly known as Spanish fly, which is actually a beetle that produces an irritant so caustic that it makes the skin blister if exposed to it. Whatever Spanish fly does as an intact beetle is irrelevant in this case, since common preparations of Cantharis are 6C. Now, in homeopathy terms, this means the original concentrated solution has been diluted 100 times, repeated 6 times over. And this translates to a dilution of 10 to the power of 12, or 1 trillion times. The end result being indistinguishable from water or whatever else it was diluted into. So I'm sorry to bore you, but let's take a look at the scientific evidence for the efficacy of a homeopathic preparation of Cantharis. In a study published in the Archives of Emergency Medicine, the analgesic action, that is the capacity to relieve pain, of the homeopathic preparation Cantharis in the treatment of minor burns, and I emphasise minor burns here, was assessed in a series of 34 patients. Under double-blind conditions, no statistically significant difference was found between Cantharis and a placebo, which is because it is placebo, probably water in fact. I'm certain that the great skill and care currently being provided to the victims of the worst peacetime disaster in Australia's history does not include spraying water on third-degree burns. In my opinion, this is an insult to the skills of the surgeons and doctors working tirelessly across the country. Testament to this nonsense comes from one website spruiking the benefits of Cantharis. Quote, Please remember though, this homeopathy materia medica is provided for information only, with no guarantee of accuracy. It is not intended as a substitute for medical advice, nor as a claim for the effectiveness of cantharis in treating any of the described symptoms. Our thoughts are with the families and victims of the Victorian bushfires. You can assist by donating to the Red Cross at redcross.org.au, and if you are in Australia, you can also donate urgently needed blood for the burns victims by also contacting the Red Cross. This has been Dr. Rachie Reports.
Hello, my name is Michael Wolloghan and welcome to The Roundup, where I share news and views that will interest skeptics, humanists, secularists and followers of the flying spaghetti monster. In my last segment I mentioned that Nancy Cartwright, who provides the voice of Bart in The Simpsons, recorded a phone message to promote the nefarious Church of Scientology. Simpsons executive producer Al Jean said the show didn't authorise Cartwright's message and usage of the Bart Simpson voice. Jean said that it has never endorsed any religion, philosophy or system of beliefs any more profound than Butterfinger bars. The Fox network told CNN it had no comment on any action it is taking. A woman suspected of recruiting more than 80 female suicide bombers has confessed to organising their rapes so she could later convince them that martyrdom was the only way to escape the shame. Samira Jassim, 51, was arrested by Iraqi police and confessed to recruiting the women and orchestrating dozens of attacks. In a video confession, she explained how she mentally prepared the women for martyrdom operations, passed them on to terrorists who provided explosives, and then took the bombers to their targets. Samira Jassim was arrested on the 21st of January. She is allegedly linked to an al-Qaeda group. Two of the attacks for which Samira Jassim admitted responsibility in the video confession took place in central Iraq, which is considered one of the most dangerous areas of the country. The US military says there were 32 female suicide bomb attacks in Iraq last year, up from 8 in 2007. Women are often allowed through military checkpoints without being searched. Culturally, it is forbidden for male security forces to search women, making it easier for them to hide explosives under their traditional robes. The Iraqi government has responded to this threat by training more female police officers. A South Korean cult leader who told followers to have sex with him to purge their sins was jailed for 10 years this week. Jung Myung-suk, whose JMS group stands for both Jesus Morning Star and his initials, was convicted of raping or sexually assaulting 4 women between 2001 and 2006. The accused committed serious wrongdoing by taking advantage of his status as a religious leader, the court said in a statement, adding the victims were hurt severely. Jung, who is in his early 60s, fled South Korea in 1999, one day after rape allegations against him were broadcast on national television. He was formally charged with rape in 2001. He was arrested in Hong Kong in 2003 for visa violations, but later fled an extradition hearing. China extradited him to Seoul in February last year. Ex-cult members, mostly very young girls, have told police they were instructed to undress for health checks and have sex with Jung to get rid of their sins. The girls said they were threatened with spiritual death if they spoke of what happened. Jung formed JMS in the early 1980s, calling himself a messiah who can lead people to salvation. Jung believes he has come to finish the incomplete message and mission of Jesus Christ, asserting that he has the responsibility to save all mankind. It is unclear how many followers remain in this disturbing sect.
Hello, I'm Dr. Karen Stolzner from the Skeptic blog and Bad Language. I'm also editor of The Skeptic magazine. The Skeptic is an almost 30-year-old magazine about skepticism, science and society. We feature skeptical articles about a broad range of paranormal, occult and supernatural topics, including ghosts, astrology, psychics, UFOs and cults. We talk the skeptical talk, but also walk the skeptical walk. The Skeptic Road tests pseudoscience, investigates bizarre beliefs and practices like firewalking and divining. You'll recognise a few faces from the Skeptic Zone too, including Richard Saunders, Dr. Rachel Dunlop, Michael Wolloghan, Kylie Sturgis, and me. We're always looking for new contributors and new readers. Visit the link on our website at www.skeptics.com.au, where you can check out some articles and subscribe. And look out for the Skeptic in newsstands and bookstores soon.
Join us now for Drinking Skeptically in the Think Tank.
And I'd like to welcome everybody to the Think Tank once again. We'll start off with our special guest who just keeps turning up no matter what we do to hide, Dave the Happy Singer.
Hello everybody, you keep inviting me.
That's the trouble. Tiffany Day, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm very well today, and of course Dr. Rachel Dunlop.
Hello, Richard. I thought we changed clubs to keep away from the Happy Singer. Did he follow us somehow?
Yes. Yeah,
Can't get rid of him.
That was my car, I think.
No, we love you, Dave. Hello.
Hello,
Now,
I love you too.
It's been, what a 2 weeks it's been since our last Think Tank.
Wow.
Rachel, why don't you jump straight in with that interesting story?
Yes, with the Ben Goldacre Jr. Barnett story.
Yeah.
Okay, this exploded late last week, and basically it started with Ben posting an excerpt of a broadcaster on a radio station in the UK called LBC. She did a 3-hour talkback show, of which one of Ben's readers sent him 44 minutes of her carrying on and this diatribe about MMR and autism.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of absolutely...
And don't trust doctors.
Don't trust doctors. Homeopaths know more about vaccines. Vaccinations cause autism. The common cold. If you've had the flu vaccine, why do you get the common cold? Really obvious, quite blindingly stupid misunderstandings and misrepresentations of science and medicine. She also had a woman by the name of Yasmin, who I believe is a nurse, ring up to tell her that she was wrong, and she yelled over the top of this woman, told her she didn't know what she was talking about, then went on to accuse Yasmin on her blog, Jenny Barnett's blog, of being vicious, which was completely untrue. Anyway, it was so extensive that the only way Ben could really expose it or make people aware of what happened was to put it on badscience.net, which he did. And then, of course, a few hours later he had was notified by LBC's lawyers that they were going to take legal action because of copyright regulations. So, as most of you know, Ben's just been through the courts, in fact, 15 months in court with The Guardian for the Matthias Rath case, where Matthias Rath was selling vitamins as AIDS drugs to South Africa. So Ben decided he would just remove this piece of audio, but he posted a blog on Bad Science saying, "Can people help me? I don't know whether I have gone against copyright law. If you are a copyright lawyer, can you let me know? Am I putting myself at risk?" And this is when something that some of you may have heard of, it's called the Streisand effect. Does anyone know what that means?
Yeah, that's when you try and suppress information, it backfires horribly.
Yes, that's exactly what it is, and that's exactly what happened. Now, once he had to remove this piece of audio and everyone found out about it, of course, we all decided, bloggers and supporters of Ben across the world decided, well, we've got nothing to lose, we'll post it anywhere we can.
Yeah.
So you actually posted it for me on my YouTube account. Richard kindly split it up into 5 sections. We all had it, most of us.
Lots of people had it anyway.
Yeah, because
on their iPods.
we subscribed to his podcast, and I had it on my iPod, you had it, so it was all over the world. Sometime in the early hours of Saturday morning Australian time, about 5 bloggers across the world decided that one way to get around the legal issues was to transcribe the entire 44-minute audio.
Wow.
One of whom was Kylie Sturgis, who runs Pod Black.
Our reporter.
She's our reporter.
Yeah.
Podblack.com.
That's right, podblack.com. The Lay Scientist, a couple of other bloggers all got together, and then I got a call from Kylie at about 2 o'clock on Saturday morning, Australian time, because I'm always up at that time, listeners.
Just waiting.
I was just my fingers poised over my computer.
Yeah.
No, because I'd been blogging all day about it. Anyway, we ended up splitting the transcript up over 5 blogs, because that way, if one of them gets taken down for legal reasons, then the other 4 are still there. So that sort of covered our bases a little bit. And then a few hours later, it appeared on WikiLeaks with 13 servers hosting it across the world, and then it appeared on a torrent.
Yep.
So that was it. It was viral.
It's absolutely impossible now to stop that.
Absolutely. So that was a really classic example of the Streisand effect in action, and all that really happened for Jenny Barnett. And this is continuing as we speak. It's still happening because, but funnily enough, LBC, the radio station, have gone pretty quiet. I haven't heard in the last few days whether they are still continuing with legal action against Ben. I mean, he's taken it down, so I guess he's in the clear now. However, the blogs now, last time I did a search, if you search for Barnett Goldacre on Google, slowly the hits have been going up over the last week, and it's now up to about 7,000 hits. Yep. So there's now something like 120 blogs out there. In fact, if you want the stats, people, go to badscience.net, because Ben posted a blog today with all the statistics, and of all the blogs that he knows, he's compiling a list, as is Holford Watch. If you have a look at Holford Watch, he's got a chronological series of events, and also he's got all the blogs and all the links to the YouTube, my YouTube, which is Rachie Sid, RACHIESYD. I'm in fact the only one that's got it on YouTube at the moment.
And you're getting a lot of hits.
A lot of hits, yeah. So most of the stuff that Ben's been getting is in support of what he's done. All he's trying to do is get this out there so that people can discuss it, because it is such a hot public health issue. I mean, the facts are that vaccination for MMR in the UK has fallen by something like 25% across the country, and something like 50% in certain parts of London.
That's so dangerous.
It's absolutely dangerous. And
it's largely thanks to these lunatics.
It's largely thanks to people like Jenny Barnett and Andrew Wakefield. And, you know, as Ben talks about a lot, and also he writes about in Bad Science, this MMR autism link was never, ever demonstrated. I mean, if you have a look at my blog, skepticsbook.com, I've reproduced a retraction of the interpretation, which was published in 2004 by a couple of the scientists that wrote on the original Wakefield paper, saying that they realise that it's becoming such a big public health issue that they now need to say unequivocally that they misinterpreted the results, and there is no link between MMR and autism. That was published in The Lancet in 2004 by 10 of the scientists out of 12 who wrote that paper. Yet there are still people like Jenny Barnett who say, no, MMR causes autism. And of course, Wakefield is still causing so much damage. He's relocated to the United States now, and he's moved into a place called Thoughtful House, and he's spruiking, which is a sort of children's charity for children with learning disorders, where he's still spruiking the line of MMR autism. Wow. He's believing his own stuff now, and you know, it's so dangerous. But all Ben was trying to do was to get this out there so that people can discuss it and understand why it's wrong. And the fact that LBC tried to suppress that has completely backfired in their face. So a lot of people now that I've seen on blogs in the past couple of days are calling for her to at least make a public on-air apology and a retraction, and if not, she should be fired.
Yep. Yeah, I remember when I first downloaded the podcast, I heard it and I began listening to it. Oh, no. And after about 5 minutes, I think my headphones started to disintegrate. Yeah. And I said to you, we'll listen to this. We were driving somewhere. And I said, within 5 or 10 minutes, you'll say stop. So we're driving along, and 5-10 minutes later, I hear this from the back seat, turn that off! I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, but preceding that, turn that off, listeners, were a series of expletives that I can't repeat. They got so loud and so frequent that I had to tell him to turn it off in the end. But I have subsequently put myself through the entire 44 minutes.
Brave girl.
If you are a bit sensitive to stupidity, people, I recommend that you read the transcript instead, because it's I've just got to quote what Ben said about this. He was interviewed today, or a couple of days ago, about this whole issue by another radio station, and his description of the Jenny Barnett broadcast was, and I just love this, it's like being smacked about the face continually with a stupid stick. And that pretty much sums up the kind of stuff that was spouting out of her gob.
Now, speaking of being smacked around the head by a stupid stick, we have a character here in Melbourne, or Dandenong, I should say. Now, of course, I don't need to tell our listeners about the dreadful bushfires, wildfires that have been here in Australia. I'm sure you're all completely aware of that. But it's interesting on the news, the police are looking for looters. That is just disgraceful. They're saying this situation brings out the best in people and the worst, and they're looking for looters, which is, of course, a horrible thing.
Well, some people are forced to go back to their shells of homes just to protect what remains, because apparently there are looters going in to just take whatever's left.
So not only does it bring out looters and arsons and all that sort of thing, another cockroach that has crawled out from under the fires, so to speak, the gang of lunatics from the... Now, what is it? Catch the Fire Ministries. Catch the Fire Ministries.
Ironically.
Who put out this media release. Now, remember, this is the worst disaster in Australian peacetime history.
The worst natural disaster.
Yeah.
We're up to almost 200 people.
That's dead. The last reports, yes.
750 houses gone.
I think over 1,000 now. Houses gone.
Okay. But in any case, it's on a terrible scale that is just
bad.
And of course, a horrible way to die, disasters, and to be burnt. So these characters have sent out a press release just yesterday or the day before. Media release: abortion laws to blame for bushfires. It says, and they stupid stick. And their spokesman, their leader, Pastor Danny Nalia. Thank you. Apparently had a dream about the bushfires last year. He predicted them.
He did on the 22nd of October. In his media release, he refers to a post that he put out at the start of November last year. He'd had a dream, and he told 40 intercessory prayer warriors who... I don't know if you know what an intercessory prayer warrior is, but it's somebody who talks to themselves.
Right.
He told them about a dream where he successfully predicted bushfires in Australia.
Wow, that's a hard thing to do.
I don't think it's that hard to do, but it's interesting to me that it's the abortion laws that are at fault this time, because normally it's homosexuals.
I see.
Or the secularization of society.
I see. So they've just picked one of their bugbears and said this is the reason.
It's definitely abortion laws. He knows that. God said, "My wrath is about to be released upon Australia, in particular Victoria, for approving the slaughter of the innocent children in the womb. Now call on my people to repent and pray." Which he did, and they repented and prayed, no doubt, and the fires came anyway.
Yes.
He also calls Victoria the baby-killing state of Australia, Dave.
Really?
Yes, he does. In the article I've got here.
He called upon all Australian Bible-believing, God-fearing Christians to repent. Well, hang on, haven't they repented already? And call upon Lord Jesus Christ for His mercy and protection over Australia once again. So
I have a question.
Yes.
Now, first of all, he had this dream in mid-October. My first comment is January, Australia, summer.
Bushfires.
February is the hottest month of summer. Bushfires.
Every year.
Without question.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not a big stretch. If he knew this disaster was forthcoming, why didn't he inform anybody?
Well,
he did blog about it.
He did go on his blog.
But he wouldn't go to the media and say this is going to be a huge disaster and the biggest disaster in peacetime history.
Well, look at it from the media's point of view. Some nut from a religious church comes and says, I had a dream about bushfires in summer.
But my final comment is he's saying that Victoria is the baby-killing state of Australia for the abortion decriminalisation. How many children and babies died in these fires? Lots of them. And so he's saying that...
I'm sure there were some Christians among those 200 people.
That's true. There would be.
His comments are so insensitive and not... What's the word?
Incendiary?
It's just so inappropriate at a time like this to be trying to make political points or religious points when this is a disaster. Shut up.
Well, I did hear that the Premier of Victoria called him offensive.
Well, it is offensive.
Well,
I think it's a lovely old Australian expression. I think he's got a kangaroo loose in the top paddock. Which is another way of saying he's a few cents short of $1. You know what I mean?
He's sandwiches short of a picnic.
Sandwich short of a picnic. He can't be completely sane. I mean, just to come out like that and...
Well, it's the media's fault as well. They've jumped on it. They've totally sensationalised.
Well, no, in a way it's good that they brought attention to this rat bag, I think.
I don't think so. I think just ignore him.
Either that or he's like the Westboro Baptist Church who will do anything in order to get attention for their nutbag things. I mean, they deliberately do things that will get them any particularly notable tragedy they will blame on America for supporting, for being fag enablers, I believe is the expression, yeah.
Fag and what?
Enablers.
Fag enablers.
America is a country of fags and fag enablers. This, according to the Westboro Baptist Church.
Well, these people are railing against the abortion laws in Victoria, but as for this pastor, I think those abortion laws should be made retrospective.
Oh, somebody said that.
Well, they're having 7 days of fasting, aren't they?
I was just going to mention that.
Could they not extend it? You know, just the special nature of this event. Oh, honestly, how terrible. The good thing is that all the Christians I know have been turning against this guy as well. I mean, it's been universal condemnation from every quarter I've seen. I've not seen a single person, even his own church, seem to be. Except
if you go to their press release, which is also a blog, a forum. You can post up.
Oh, good point.
When I noticed it, I went straight there and I was scathing. How dare you and all the rest of it. It lasted about 3 minutes and disappeared.
Moderation.
And if you go there now, it's Pastor, you're so right. God's fearful wrath has come across the room. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I know someone else. In fact, Joel Birch. Hi, Joel. He posted something to the forum and it never appeared. So anything that's sceptical or slightly critical, just moderators go erase.
The last one I put on there, which lasted a couple of minutes, was too late. You've been outed. You can't put this genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, but he's Danny Nalia is also saying that he's helping out. I mean, in this article here from the Sydney Morning Herald, he said he was helping to coordinate fire relief, including providing trucks to distribute clothes and food and giving his own blood. But he must tell the truth. And when he was asked by the journalist who wrote this article, Rick Fennelly, if Australians would regard his remarks as being in appallingly bad taste, he said, "I must tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear."
I'll tell him something he wants to hear.
The guy's a lunatic.
Yeah, well, we were telling him stuff he didn't want to hear, but he deleted it off his blog.
Yeah, so. He needs to hear it.
He needs to hear that.
Yeah, very sad situation. And, of course, our listeners are invited to go to the Red Cross in Australia, the website. You can certainly make donations if you care to, which would be a very good thing to do. Now, speaking of... I mentioned before, kangaroos loose in the top paddock.
Such a great expression.
It's a great expression. For years and years and years in Australia, you can buy this little device called Shoo-Roo. Shoo-Roo. You put it on your car, and when you travel at some speed, it's apparently an ultrasonic device which emits a nice beam of sound which scares off kangaroos so they don't jump in front of your cars, which can be a danger.
Well, only when you're travelling at a certain speed.
Apparently so, yeah. There's like a whistle or something. The air vibrates.
However, similar to how deers and things jump in front of cars in the Northern Hemisphere.
But a study just released by the national road bodies here in Australia, in New South Wales and Victoria, has simply said the conclusion is... Shoo-Roo does not produce a sound that is detectable at 400 metres. Shoo-Roo makes no difference to the number of kangaroos hit when fitted to vehicles. So,
Are you saying it's a scam, Richard?
I'm not saying it's a scam. I'm just saying it doesn't work. Now, whether that's a scam or not is a different question entirely. Yes, indeed.
But I'd like to note that it rhymes with woo-woo.
Shoo-woo-woo-woo.
Shoo-Roo rhymes with woo-woo.
That's just an observation.
I just want to throw that out there. Just an observation. Shoo-Roo rhymes with woo-woo.
So that's the sort of things we have to deal with in Australia, folks, is funny devices on cars to shoo away kangaroos. It's true. It's true.
Does it make an audible sound? Because that'd be funny, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Cars make an audible sound.
How
cars make
Cars make an audible sound. Surely there's a selection pressure on kangaroos who can avoid the sound of cars.
What if it was like a novelty horn? You know, those diddly horns or something. Maybe something like that. Because you don't hear that all the time.
Or maybe they could have a device in the cars that just played the Skippy song. Do 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 do. Look at these two.
They've gone blank.
That's before our time, isn't it, Tiffany?
No, I remember it from when I was little. Like, not well enough to remember the theme song, though.
Oh, dear.
Was
it Skippy, the bush kangaroo?
That's right.
Yeah.
Who won't jump in front of a car, I'm sure. So thank you to the shooter. That's a very interesting story. Tiffany, can you tell our listeners quickly about the skeptical events coming up at Macquarie Uni?
Yes, at my university, Macquarie University, our little skeptics group, the Macquarie Skeptics, are having a Skeptics Week. It's running from the 9th of March, that's a Monday, to Friday the 13th of March. We've got events planned for every day, and our big finale on the Friday will be Richard giving us a talk.
Wow, excitement.
Yeah, we've got a few talks lined up during the week. We've also, we're doing a beer divining evening.
What?
Beer divining.
When's that?
On the Tuesday, the 10th.
That's brilliant.
If you find it, you get beer.
It's the 10th or something, isn't it?
The 10th.
Are you searching for water, but if you find it, you get beer, or you search for beer?
Water, and if you find it, you get beer.
Wow, that sounds good.
Well, I think that's the plan at the moment,
I've got lots
anyway.
of divining rods I could bring.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah.
And
I saw a council worker using divining rods the other day.
Really?
He was in North Sydney, he was on the pavement, he was clearly kind of spray painting where the subterranean pipes were or something, but he was actually using it. And
dude, I've been through this. I have a friend that works for the council, and they use that at his work, and he's trying to argue with me, saying, we use this at work, though, but we use it at work. I'm like, well, that doesn't make it, true.
Believe that.
He's like, well, how are we supposed to know where the pipes are? I'm like, surely for a council worker, they give you a map of where all the piping is.
Give him that card.
I've been through this.
Okay.
It's not going to go anywhere, but...
I just couldn't believe it. I wanted to go up to him and say, what the hell do you think you're doing, man?
Here, have this DVD. It'll explain everything.
What, did he have 2 rods or what?
He had the two white, long, kind of the L-shaped rods that are supposed to cross.
Yeah.
And they appeared to be kind of metal. So it wasn't one of those
ridiculous
things. But honestly, what's a lot of nonsense.
So where can people find out more about your...
MacquarieSkeptics.com.
That's the way.
We've also got a pirate party, a pirate trivia party. It's going to be good. It will be good.
Divining for beer. Why didn't I think of that?
I think I'd be good at that.
If we had some rods now, we could divine, because the bar's
just over there.
Oh, you can also find us on Facebook, Facebook groups with Skeptics at Macquarie.
Okay, so please, the Sydney listeners, that's a great place to meet some skeptics and skeptics in the pub in Sydney, which you can find through Meetup Group.
Meetup.com and search for Sydney Skeptics.
Sydney Skeptics, that's the way.
Actually, we've got a new room for skeptics in the pub now, Richard.
We do.
We've got so big and so many lovely, fun skeptics that we've moved into the room next door from where we were previously.
So it's still the Crown Hotel here in Sydney at the corner of Elizabeth and Goulburn Streets, the Thursday of every month.
Yeah. Nice big funky room.
It's a nice big room.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's a great night out. And also, what I'd like to mention is listeners on Twitter. The Skeptic Zone has a Twitter account. A Twitter account, which is simply called 3 guesses.
Skeptic Zone.
Skeptic Zone.
That's one guess.
That's. So if you're on Twitter, look for Skeptic Zone, and you can follow the adventures of Skeptic Zone.
And if you're not on Twitter,
you're a twit.
Why not? You're no one if you're not on Twitter.
Speaking of Twitter,
yes.
Oh, I forgot to mention earlier also too that Stephen Fry tweeted about Ben Goldacre.
Oh yes,
yesterday, saying he needs our support, but. Ben Goldacre also posted a link a couple of days ago on Twitter, which was to the Atheist Bus slogan generator website. Have you guys seen it?
Yes, I've seen that. Yes,
it's so much fun. So basically, listeners, it's a sort of template of the London bus with the ad on the side, and then you have 3 boxes where you can type in your own slogan, and then you press go, and it puts it up on the side of the bus for you, and then you can save it and put it anywhere.
So you could type in something like, if you don't believe in God, visit DaveTheHappySinger.com.
You could.
He got it in. I was waiting for that. He got his URL.
Shameless self-promotion.
We just need a dodgy segue and we can wrap this up.
He hasn't done a dodgy pun yet, though, have you?
Nah, not
yet.
I'll save our listeners that.
But if you do a search for bus slogan generator, I can't remember the web address. Can you remember the URL?
I'm sure if you Google it, you'll find it.
Yeah, you'll find it. It's fun. Lots of fun.
Now, we've been getting lots of emails lately. In fact, Rachel, I don't know, just before we came here tonight, and I know you were at the gym.
I was at
the gym. We had an email come in about the big cats.
Oh, right.
Somebody has seen a big cat, and they sent me an email about it, and somebody has sent you and I an email about AltMed. So thank you, everybody who's been writing to us. We will reply to your letters. It can take a bit of time sometimes because we get so many, but we love to get your email feedback and your comments on our comment page.
You can write to me because nobody ever writes to me.
You can write to me as well.
No.
Oh.
That's enough R's for today.
Yeah. Can I talk about a AIDS scammer that's prowling around Sydney at the moment?
Please do.
And I say scammer, I'm quoting from someone else's work, in case you want to sue me.
I don't want to sue you.
In case he does. His name is Brad Paxton.
Hi, Brad.
Yeah.
And I blogged about this a couple of days ago on Skeptic's book. In fact, can I just mention as an aside, my blog is called The Skeptic's Book of Poo-Poo.
There's a link from skepticzone.tv.
There is, and the URL is just skepticsbook.com. But since all this stuff exploded with Ben, and my blog has been linked all over the place because I've got part 4 of the transcript, it's just turned into Dr. Rachie's blog, The Skeptic's Book. Everyone's leaving off the poo-poo bit.
Aww.
It's all right.
That's the best part.
That's what I think too.
Oh, it's linked as the Skeptic's Book of Poo-Poo at DaveTheHappySinger.com.
Oh, well, thank you, Dave. I'll have to have... Yeah, he's done it again. It's like being rickrolled, isn't it? You never know when it's going to come up.
Right when you least expect it. DaveTheHappySinger.com. That's 3.
Well, this story was in the Sydney Star Observer this week, which is the gay street press that you find for free around Sydney. It comes from a report written by Harley Dennett, is the journalist, and it was about this gentleman. His name is Brad Paxton, and he apparently came into the Sydney Star Observer offices with some evidence, he said, for an organic formula he's invented or discovered which will cure AIDS, cancer, diabetes and high blood pressure.
Wow.
It's pretty impressive, isn't it? He's actually asking people to donate money to his cause so that he can do a backyard trial.
Oh my God.
Backyard trial?
Well, similar to that. I mean,
no, you want to do it in hospitals.
No. He doesn't, Dave, because he doesn't want this getting out to the pharmaceuticals. He's trying to keep a low profile with like-minded people.
Is that that big farmer I keep hearing about?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a great big fat guy, with a straw hat and a bit of straw out of his head going,
the farmer.
I'm gonna
the big farmer.
The big farmer, he's going to stop your AIDS cures.
So did you say he approached a newspaper?
Yes, he went to...
But he's trying to keep a low profile.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
He went to the Observer and he apparently turned up with photographs, which this journalist described as magnified pictures of blood cells to justify his claim. And to me, that raises a red flag. It sounds to me like live blood analysis.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen the photographs, and apparently the paper asked if they could keep copies to get them examined independently. But he said, and listen to this red flag, people, I've got the negatives, but I'd rather keep those in a top-secret facility.
That's almost exactly what was said about that Bigfoot suit in the freezer. I'll only let it be examined by these special true believers who are the experts in believing things truly.
Yeah. Well, apparently this guy has done something similar to this in the past. In fact, he has previously been investigated by the TGA. And I did a search on the TGA website for his name, and I couldn't find what he allegedly did. But the Sydney Star has elicited a warning to the gay community of Sydney, saying if this guy approaches you and asks you for money for this amazing magic cure, stay away from him.
Good on him.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Actually, I was interested to see that in the article they posted not just his name, but his photograph.
Good.
And this is actually quite funny. He... Do you think he's a doctor or a scientist, people?
Gee, do we get 3 guesses?
Clearly he is. Clearly.
No, he runs a skylight installation business on the northern beaches of Sydney. So I told someone this the other day and they said, is he going to install skylights in people? Is that the magical cure or something? So stay away from Brad Paxton, people.
Do we have anything else?
Do you want to talk about the underpants?
Very briefly, some...
He wants to talk about briefs, underpants.
He briefly wants to talk about underpants.
Or chaddies. This is just briefly... a Hindu radical organisation has been attacking female students going into pubs for, behaving freely and entering pubs. They're just...
Where?
What country?
This was in India. And a group seemed quite fundamental, linked to the Hindu nationalist movement. We're trying to stop women going out into the pub. There's been a bit of a backlash on Facebook. The Consortium of Pub-Going Loose and Forward Women.
That sounds like me.
Cool.
Which... you were actually the first person I thought of when I found it out. And I thought, no, I can't say that on the podcast. She'll kill me.
She beat you to
it. They've set up a campaign on Facebook to send pink knickers this Valentine's Day to the leaders of this group who are called the Sri Ram Sena group, and the knickers thing is connected to the Hindu nationalist movement, who are famous for wearing the big baggy khaki shorts called chaddies in Hindi slang. So they're saying, right, pants to this. Send in some knickers.
That'd be so funny.
It's just nice, because we do a lot of bashing of Christian and Muslim fundamentalists within the free thought movement, and it's just sometimes you can just roll a dice. You roll one dice for which religion it is and another for which minority it is, and there'll be some nutcases out there trying to take people's freedom away. So buy some big pink knickers. And
what's the website there?
It's on Facebook. If you search for the Consortium of Pub-Going Loose and Forward Women.
Pub-going loose and forward women.
Consortium of pub-going loose and forward women. And if you can't find it, I'll link to it at davethehappysinger.com.
Number 4.
That was... Oh, dearie me. Well, thank you very much, davethehappysinger.com. Dave.
Thank you so much for having me, Richard. It's always a pleasure. I love the Skeptic Zone.
Great. And Tiffany, Dave, thank you.
Thanks,
Great
guys.
to see you again. Dr. Rachel.
Thanks, Richard.
For your report. And we'll have another drink in a couple of weeks in the think tank.
Cool.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Bye. Stay happy.
Richard, Show 17, another bumper edition of the Skeptic Zone.
Oh, Show 17. Now we can all look forward to Show 18, which will be part 2 of our major long interview with Dr. Ben Goldacre.
Oh, yes, indeed. That's going very well. A lot of good responses from that too. He's a pretty funny guy.
He's got a lot of fans.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He does have a lot of fans. So I'm looking forward to that, and then there'll be show 18, there'll be show 19, there'll be show 20.
Just keep going forever.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, great show, and thanks everyone for listening, and thanks for helping us get up those charts and things, and basically just doing our thing in the zone.
We are doing our thing in the zone, Stefan. I shall see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Richard. It's been good.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.
The Skeptic Zone.